What's up, guys? This is Kalo, and normally I'm here to give you the lowdown on all things gaming, but welcome back to another episode of Community Kitchen, where we're cooking up the latest and greatest gaming news headlines. And today I'm joined by my sous chef, Aiden. Why don't you say what's up?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Community Kitchen, where Kevin is the color of the Hulk's skin, and I'm clearly his pants.
This is like subliminal messaging. Maybe the next Hulk movie is coming out. We don't know. We talk about the games. Maybe a Hulk game is coming out, but we don't want to talk about superhero games right now because they're in the shambles. But before we get into any of that, we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you guys who are liking these videos, subscribing to Game Sandwich, and joining our Discord. Links to that is in the video description down below. Now, today's episode is one that we never really like talking about. Talking about layoffs, and apparently Xbox is bracing for a rather large round of layoffs. There's a bigger conversation I want to get to, but I want to take care of all the quote stuff first, and then we can dive into the overall conversation. And real quick, Aiden, they say it could be happening this upcoming week. Do we think that happens? They said by the end of the month or next week. What are we feeling? We feel early in the month, later in the month?
I mean, I just don't want it to happen in general because I don't
Exactly.
like it whenever layoffs happen. But I mean, I hope that it's later in the month. Like I hope that they give people more time, but
Yeah, it's rather
I
sudden.
feel like they won't. I'll feel like they'll just like rip off the Band-Aid. Just be like, "Hey, you're fired. Get out of here." You
Uh,
know? I know how these
exactly.
things go, and they typically get a mass email, and it's annoying.
Yeah, just send it right to spam. If you don't see it, you're technically not laid off. So that's how that
It's
works.
okay. Just give us like three things you did this week to tell us why you need to stay.
Yeah, I did a thing. That's
You
what
know?
I did. But anyway, this is all coming from Tom Warren from The Verge. Microsoft is planning to cut jobs in the company's Xbox gaming business as early as next week, this upcoming week. He first reported in a notepad earlier in the month that Microsoft is planning Xbox layoffs potentially by the end of the month. Of course, Bloomberg said that's getting to a round of major layoffs due this week. He understands managers at Microsoft have been briefed about Xbox cuts and wider layoffs in other parts of Microsoft's business. The upcoming cuts are also expected to hit Microsoft's sales organization just at the start of the new financial year. Microsoft is planning to restructure parts of Xbox business as it looks ahead to the next generation of consoles. One source tells him Microsoft is restructuring Xbox distribution across Central Europe, resulting in some Xbox operations ceasing in some regions. Now, that's the general reasoning why. But now I want to get into a quote from George Broussard. I hope I'm saying that name right. Who is a seasoned industry veteran and the founders of Duke Nukem. He wrote on Blue Sky earlier this week that internal sources anticipate the layoffs to be severe. He stated that it would be around 2,000 workers could be laid off, which could impact 10% of Xbox's workforce as a whole. The industry veteran also added mounting anxiety and situation does not appear to be improving. So that is the general quote side of things. 2,000 people. That and it
That's
could be
ridiculous.
and it could be more. It is absolutely insane, right?
Yeah, that is. And I looked it up just for the sake of it, just because you were well, like while you were reading. But also, like it's saying here on at least Economic Times that they're suggesting that they're closing multiple entire studios too.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah.
What game studios are they going to be closing? That's my big question.
Well, this is what I wanted to get into first and then kind of build from there. I go back to the Activision Blizzard deal where, yes, like, this was a massive thing for Xbox to get and Microsoft to get. They got Call of Duty, they got all the World of Warcraft, the mobile business, and all that. That's good and well. But whenever you do an acquisition like that, there's going to be overlap in departments. There's going to be a lot of, not to belittle it, but like fat on the bone or fat on the meat where you got to cut it as a business. You just can't have that overlap, especially with them wanting to meet margins and stuff like that. I don't like that part of the business, and I always like heading into that acquisition. I'm like, it's great they have the games, but I know what this results in, especially it was like 69 nice $1 billion. You're gonna cut costs somewhere to make that up. And yeah, studios wise, I'm very worried about smaller studios that exist within this mythos, you know? One that comes to mind, and I hate to say it, like, it's one of my favorite developers out there, Double Fine. As much as I love Tim Schafer, I love Psychonauts, I love everything they do. In the grand scheme of things, the black and white of the business, where it's very cutthroat, Xbox can look at that and say, your games aren't making us that much money. We might just cut bait with you and send you off, right? Like, is that. I know it's brutal to say, but, like, business.
I mean, it's a numbers game. It really
Exactly.
is. And if you're not meeting certain numbers, then they're just going to cut you, no questions asked. It's like it's very simple on that. And like I was looking at this and like earlier this month, it says like more than 300 people were laid off as well. Um, from it was like 1,900 employees in total from ZeniMax, Activision, Blizzard, and Xbox in general. Apparently, from early 2024, it says or something. I don't know. This whole wording is weird how they have it here, but it says like early 2024 they laid off 1,900 employees from ZeniMax, Activision, Blizzard, and Xbox, and that just shows that even the bigger companies like aren't immune to this. It's going to be like I'm wondering if Activision's going to get hit, or even Treyarch or something, or if you're going to end up having like Blizzard employees be hit again, or Bethesda even.
Uh, I'm looking at Blizzard because there's this graphic that shows you, like, all the Bethesda studios, all Activision, all Xbox game studios. In my in what I'm looking at, I don't know how Blizzard operates, but they have like 40,000 different, like, Blizzard Austin, Blizzard Boston, Blizzard Shanghai, Seoul. I can easily see them being like, hey, like, one of you gotta go. Arcane has been hit by layoffs like crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if they shutter another studio or something like that. I'm not gonna say like Playground Games or Obsidian or like Mojang, Rare, because those are the people that are making them a lot of money. And then like 343, which is now Halo Studios, they're working on the next big Halo. I don't see them being touched unless that project is like somehow behind the scenes off the rails, like just completely shot. But
My thought process is, do you think Ninja Theory could be hit, or do you think that like Obsidian or somebody could be hit, like one of the big studios?
I struggle with Ninja Theory because Ninja Gaiden is coming out September or sometime soon, I want to say. And they've been really big on like pushing that studio, and they've been collaborating with a lot of people. They also brought Hayabusa back in Halo Infinite, which, shout out to them, that's the best Halo armor. So there's that brand synergy, like, we're behind this studio. Obsidian pushing out The Outer Worlds 2 and Avowed this year, that alone proves to me that they can stay and they can make games and they can make them at a fast rate, which is something that Xbox wants to see. I mean, you look at the cadence of games over on Xbox versus PlayStation and then Nintendo too. They're pushing out like 5 or 6 games almost every other month, whether that be third party or Xbox first party. I I don't think Playground Games gets hit because they make Forza Horizon and that's like the big game for them, and they're making Fable. But I can.
Yeah, with them making Fable, I doubt they're getting hit.
Yeah,
That them and Bethesda, I think, are like the two who are the most safe.
and this is where I also want to look at like how Xbox has been pushing, we're going to do third party things where it's like we're going to just kind of collaborate with people making hardware, and they could do this by letting these studios go, and they have this strategic partnership with Toys for Bob. Remember, that was under their umbrella for a long time. They cut bait, they shuttered the studio, but then Toys for Bob went independent. They're their own thing. Now they have a partnership. Just because it gets shuttered on the business side of things, I'm hoping, like, I hoping it doesn't happen at all, like you said. But hopefully these studios find, some type of
Yeah.
balance out in the world because
I mean, they could have enough following, they could have enough like set back and everything that they can easily like once they get shuttered, they could just bring themselves back up from the dead.
yeah, and I'm looking at this giant Xbox, like I think it's a thing they posted about the sheer amount of studios they have. I mean, it's actually insane that all of this exists. Like I'm a big Xbox fan, but you can always get lost in like, oh, like how many developers and how many studios are under this. It's a big amount, and adding in the Activision Blizzard wing, you had to have thought, and it's not going to happen right away whenever that acquisition went through last summer. It's going to happen now. And I've heard some things too in the headlines. Don't hold me to this. This is because they're kind of looking into some AI work, and I want to get your thoughts on. I'm not saying this is the definitive thing, but like, could that play a role somewhere down the line where it's like, hey, AI is helping development. We really don't need all these big studios kind of pitching in.
I mean, if that ends up being the case, I feel like I want to say that people will rise up and be like, "Hey, you're closing studios because of AI reasons," and then not support this, not support them.
Yeah.
But I know in my heart of hearts that that's not gonna happen because people are stupid. And I'm sorry if I insult anybody with that one, but like, let's face it, things go to AI and people will be like, it'll be like the Nintendo Switch 2 thing where people go, oh man, I'm angry about this thing. We should boycott. And then they ultimately don't because
Yeah.
it's just going to end up being like that. They're going to be like, oh, well, there was this game I wanted. And it'll be an excuse and that won't change anything. So I guarantee you, if it is for AI reasons, then people aren't going to care. They're just like, they'll say that they care, but
Yeah.
then they ultimately won't.
And to put the numbers game in perspective, this will be the fourth mass layoff at Xbox, just at Xbox alone, in the last 18 months. And there's this going thing that Bloomberg states that Xbox is facing pressure from Microsoft execs to boost profit margins. This is where I go back to Activision Blizzard, where like sure, it's great to have Call of Duty and it's great to have all that, but it's multi-platform. Wouldn't you think instead of going into this acquisition saying we want to own you, we want to have you, and then we're like, we're gonna have to cut 1 billion people. Like, I don't know. It's so tough reporting on this stuff because, like you said at the top of the episode, it is a numbers game. It is strictly that, and us as fans, we're just like,
Yeah.
why does it have to be like this all the time? It's like every other month we are doing a video or running a story that is insert publisher or developer was either shuttered or let go because of layoffs and cuts and whatever.
Yeah. Like I said, I'll bring it back to that. It is a numbers game. It is a CEO sitting at the top of things saying, hey, I like that I have like a $6 million paycheck last year, but I can make it 7 million this year if we just cut like 100 or 2,000 people or something, like, and they don't matter. We can still make the same games, yada yada yada, even if they are cut. And then
Yeah.
that's how it plays out. They want to increase their profit margin not because they want the business to succeed, but it's because the CEOs want more money in their pockets. That's what happens. That happens every single time, and people are just going to just fall in line and just continue to support. And you know what? I will say this: if anybody watching this wants to, support creators, then support them independently. Don't support them through big companies. Don't be like Kevin. Don't be a Kevin and be like I love Xbox.
Oh.
Or in the one video where he goes, I love Nintendo.
Yeah,
You
that
know?
I knew that'd be clipped. I knew it would come back to me.
Like support them in the independent sense and be like, hey, I like these indie studios. Support the indie studios. Like the one that made Player Obscure,
Yeah.
Expedition 33, Support them. Support smaller studios. don't support them getting bought out, because when they get bought out, that's what happens. That's what like ends up leading to these layoffs and everything. Like the famous quote, you vote with your dollar. Just, pay attention to that. You do vote with your dollar.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough, and that's how normally these things go. But if anything, yeah, we're bracing for these impacts. Maybe this week. I honestly don't know. I hope it doesn't happen at all. Again, it just sucks. It really does suck. But we will see as we head into this week. That about does it here for this episode of Community Kitchen. We hope you guys enjoyed. Remember, if you're new here to Game Sandwich, consider subscribing and dropping a like on this here video. And why don't you join our Discord? Links to that is in the video description down below. But I've been Kalo, joined by Aiden, and we'll see you guys next time. If you enjoyed today's video and want more content just like this, consider subscribing to Game Sandwich for all your news, rumors, and reviews. And we'll see you guys next time.